Hello and welcome to the Fibro Guys Corner with your host, me, Adam Foster. With me today I have two of my four brand new Fibro Guys. With me I've got Kyle Prosser, fully recovered from functional neurological disorder, and I've got Jonathan Young, full fibromyalgia recovery. About 8 or 9 months ago I asked these guys, fancy working with me? Fancy spending the next few months getting trained up and delivering the program I invented for myself, the program that helped these guys fully recover and deliver it in their kind of cities that they live in. They both said yes, so we're here. So the whole point of today, and this is kind of our very first podcast, is we were talking earlier on about kind of the journey to actually getting out of pain and how much misinformation there is out there, because let's be honest guys, there's a lot. So we were having quite a laugh about it earlier, weren't we guys, about kind of all the crazy things that people have said to us in the past. So we thought, why not put it on a podcast and we'll address it, and we'll use today to kind of go through Jonny's story. And kind of Jonny could tell you how he went from, in his own words, what was it, Jonny?
From fuck to Fibro guy.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Let's make that a hashtag, I think. Yeah, we'll have to put explicit on the podcast though, so that's great. Right, yeah, so Jonny, take it, man.
Oh, well, mine kind of stems back about 8 years ago now, back in 2012, initially diagnosed with just pain in the wrists. Was initially told it was probably a repetitive strain, but then kept getting tested, scans done, had nerve conduction studies, everything, you name it, I was tested for it. Eventually, when they ran out of things to test me for, I got
Fibromyalgia.
Yeah, I got told I had fibromyalgia. There was nothing more they can do for me, and then that was it. They kept referring me to different specialists, but every time I turned up, it was just, you've wasted your day, you've wasted your time, there's nothing we can do for you. No point did anyone ever tell me that it was something you could recover from. The general consensus of what I got was, this is you, that's it, learn to maybe cope, but...
Yeah, it's the culture we live in, you go to pain management, not pain recovery. It's about managing your pain. Who wants to manage the pain? People don't want to be in pain. I think even the word chronic has a really bad connotation, because it doesn't mean really, really bad, it just means long duration. Although if you've been in pain for a long time, you can pretty much deem it as being really, really bad. Mm-hmm. I spent £1,000 on a private pain management course where I coloured in for 5.5 hours and then spent 20 minutes with a shrink. But basically, £1,000 for that, and I was in more pain when I finished because I was so goddamn angry because I just wasted £1,000, of which I had to get a loan. Remember when before Wonga loans and things like that, you could take out these 4,000% APR kind of credit agreements, and Christ man, I don't think I ever paid them back. I ended up defaulting on them because obviously I couldn't work because I was so ill. But yeah, I could have went to the pound shop, spent £2 on a book, some pencils, and just sat and coloured in my house.
I was literally told by my doctor to calm down. This was the solution. This was the solution to all of it. I think I had something like 132 doctor's visits with absolutely no solution.
Put it down to anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, it was just put down to anxiety. I was told.
I remember I used to get weird, it was like cold water would drip down the back of my legs. And I remember explaining this to a consultant one time, and just being looked with the most horrific look you can imagine, what the hell is this guy talking about? But if you experience it, it's real. There's no such thing as psychological or fake pain or I think even the word psychological has a bad connotation.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know psychology is just your brain's interpretation of your biology and the social factors that influence it. So sometimes when people hear psychology, they think, oh, you're making it up. But the thing is, if you experience pain or experience dripping or itching, it's a real experience. It's 100% real. You know what I mean? So I remember it was Edinburgh, Jonny, when I come up to me.
Yeah, it was one of your workshops actually, yeah. Saw the advert online, basically sent you an email asking if there was any spots left, and then met you there and you did your magic.
Oh, not magic.
No, your voodoo that you do to...
Science and art.
No, the voodoo with the tattoo thing, that freaks me out.
That was just, we had a chat about history and I just thought, well, I don't know, you might as well explain it.
Well, basically, I went and saw Adam and we were going through my history, and then out of the blue, just randomly asks me, do you have a tattoo on your right arm that has some personal significance to you? Which I do. And I was wearing a hoodie just like this, so you couldn't see it, but it was just the fact that you guessed exactly where it is and what it was. Kind of freaked me out a little
It's
bit.
just all the factors lined up and then talking with you. Because man, like the whole, or even years ago when I used to see people, it used to be like a lot of physical assessments and stuff like that. And the more I've done this, the more I realise that shit really doesn't matter. It's more about spending an hour or two with the person. Because it's not, you're not treating fibromyalgia, because it's a label, it's a culturally adopted label. Not a pathology. Pain is real, 100% real. People diagnosed with fibro are in pain. But it's not about working with fibro, it's about working with Jonny. And everything that comes with Jonny, any past traumas, because let's be honest, everybody has them, skeletons in the closet, things like that, and everything in our past influences and kind of facilitates the way we go forward in life. So that wasn't so much a lucky guess, it was more like a calculate. I'm pretty sure, based on the years of doing this, it's probably a tattoo there, a family member that's passed or something. But I still remember when I asked you, like, what?
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've just met this guy that I found on the internet and he's somehow in my head. It was kind of freaky.
Hey, me and my wife met in a weirder situation, so. But yeah, happens all the time. And I think, because everybody kind of thinks recovery is just straightforward, but it's not. It's incredibly hard, and it's definitely not linear. As Kyle will know, definitely Kyle will know, ups and downs, and you'll know. And God, I know there was no program for me originally. It was just keep going. But you kind of have these setbacks, and I remember, I think it was when you were doing some of the online stuff, because I didn't actually see Jonny one-to-one for massive amounts of time. I think I had about 3 hours with you.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and then after about 3 hours, we went away. We kind of did the rest remotely. I met up with him. He come down a couple of times, things like that. But it was, what was that? It was your hamstrings, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had really tight hamstrings, and I remember I was doing a hamstring stretch. Woke up the next day, all my hamstring was just inflamed, couldn't bend my leg, freaked out, phoned you.
You rang me, didn't you?
What's that?
Because you rang me.
Yeah, oh yeah, I
I feel
rang
my
you up.
legs, Adam.
Yeah, you broke me. I can't move, I can't walk, I'm fucked.
Oh,
And then you just told me, wait a couple of days, do it again, you'll be fine. And I did, and I was.
You've just used some tissue that you haven't used in a very long time because you've been very protective of it. Totally normal, you might get a little kind of reaction. But I mean, once kind of we reassured your mind and stuff, you kind of relaxed a bit, wasn't it? Kind of easy. Yeah.
I mean, it was still hard, it was still one of the hardest things I had to do, but I think it's hard because you're in pain and you go so long getting told from all your doctors and specialists and everything, don't move if you're in pain, don't do it, don't use it. But then the solution really is to actually move.
Yeah. Use it as a catalyst, because let's be honest, it's a pretty powerful catalyst. We're designed to move. There's a lot of psychological benefits with it, social. And I mean, combine that with a bit of education and you're into a real winner. And then providing the inputs to people that people need on an individual basis, you'll happen. Pretty straightforward. I mean, but for like people listening at home, Jonny, what were some of the things that kind of going through this, and then obviously going through your practitioner training, is kind of, I don't know, because you were very big on pain meaning damage, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, every time I kind of went to a doctor, it was just reinforced that there must be damage somewhere. I mean, even though my MRIs came back without any scar tissue on any ligaments or tendons or anything like that, somehow there still had to be damage. That was always drilled into my head. So I came from a very, if I'm in pain, it must be for a reason. But after kind of going through the program and then working it from this side, it's once you start seeing and reading the science behind it, it's just so obvious why it doesn't work that way and why it's actually a protection response. It's just unfortunately that they don't teach this kind of stuff in schools yet. It's not readily, easily available information. You have to wade through a lot of crap to find it.
That's what the internet's about, isn't it? Just full of crap and stuff like that. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I want to do the podcast, because there's so much misinformation out there. And what we really want is to try and, no plugs, no stuff like that. Buy my book, look at this course, buy that. Just, evidence-based information that people can actually use at home to help themselves get better. Because there's no reason why people can't help themselves. You know what I mean? And if we give them the right information, people, can actually help themselves. I think as well what's quite interesting is the fact that we've got 3 dudes here, you know, which is quite strange in itself because predominantly, I mean, if you look at your client base, Jonny and Kyle, and mine, you know, it's predominantly women, and it's, you know, but I do see over the years there's a kind of the paradigm shifting, and what you find is you get more and more men come in, which is great because it means people are actually kind of looking for help.
Yeah.
I think that comes down to the social side of it though, doesn't it? I mean,
Oh, massively, yeah.
men were obviously raised to kind of, you know, we don't talk about it, we don't share our emotions, so to come to someone that's basically telling you that, you know, your social aspect is a large part of it.
And then there's biological and psychological factors when it comes to guys with pain, because women, you know what I mean, they're literally biologically designed for pain. They have a hormone profile that makes them more predisposed to headaches and migraines. They've got periods every month, so you know you've got a few days every month where regardless whether they're suffering from chronic pain or not, they're still in pain. You've then got childbirth on top of that, you know what I mean? So boobs, stuff like that. You've got, you know, hormone profile. You've literally got childbirth, just menopause, just literally a body designed to handle pain. Where guys, we don't really experience pain at all, apart from if we get injured, which is, I mean, how rare do you get injured? Maybe playing football, something like twin your hamstring, something like that. But a few weeks later, Bob's your uncle, you're fine. So I think people kind of don't really take that into consideration, because the thing is, women go through pain all the time, and they build certain kind of coping skills to deal with that. So when they do get chronic pain, they can deal with it a hell of a lot better than men. I mean, it's even so deeply ingrained in our society, it's even in films, like, oh, when the woman's friend says to her, oh, where's Bob, your husband? Ugh, he's got man flu, he can't deal with it, you know, like us women can. And the thing is, I mean, if you experience pain, you experience pain. Men and women don't feel it differently, because everybody experiences pain differently, it's a subjective thing. But I think for men, I mean, it's probably one of the driving factors for our high suicide rate, especially among the chronic pain community, because we don't have the coping skills to talk about it. I mean, could you guys kind of...
Yeah, I certainly struggled. You know, I had to kind of shield my pain and shield how I felt from the world, which I think probably made aspects of being in pain worse. It was demasculinizing to be suffering.
Yeah, it's shame.
Plus, you kind of develop an identity as you're growing up. You know, you become this person, and to suddenly not be that person in everyone else's eyes, you don't want to lose that, even if you are in pain. So you hide it. You'll lie. You'll say you're fine.
I was Adam Foster, soldier, lover, hero. It was my identity when I was in the army. And then I was, oh, you know, Adam, always got a migraine. You know, he cancelled all his plans. You know what I mean? It's kind of, well, it's dehumanizing to it, really. You become kind of just a thing.
It really is. I was running a business at the time, and everything was going reasonably well, and you know, I lost my identity through the pain. I was no longer functioning as I should be.
I think it's kind of, you can only really appreciate it if you've been there.
Yeah.
And like, for you guys listening at home, like the whole point of this podcast, like we were saying before, is so that we can give you, you know, information that can actually help.
Yeah.
So like kind of our story here, kind of this podcast of me, Jonny and Kyle, it's going to be done in a couple of parts. You know, we just cover history, have a little chat just like we normally do, and kind of push towards the goals of how people can actually help to manage it, what am I saying? You know, recover and get used to kind of, you know, taking in information. I think the biggest thing for people is beliefs, because that's the one thing that drives me crazy doing this job. Because we just touched on identity, but illness identity is probably even worse.
Yes.
Because, I mean, if you tell somebody, remember there's a difference between explaining to somebody or your client the neurobiology of pain, as in it's your brain that creates it through neurobiological processes, and then not explaining it properly and explaining it to somebody by saying, oh, pain is made in the brain. Because there's a good chance that if you haven't done your job properly, they're going to leave that consultation and go, well, he thinks I'm mental, I'm making it up, when that's, you know, the last thing that people mean. But the thing is, if you tell somebody, all right, guys, hunger is made in the brain. You know, you can't be hungry without a brain. People kind of go, okay, all right, okay, I understand that. Because it's not personal. But if you try and explain this pain to somebody, that pain, you know, it isn't pain receptors because the Cartesian model is massively flawed, this is why, then obviously they're going to be a little bit standoffish because, you know what I mean, you're directly contradicting their own beliefs.
they should sort of, instead of having sort of pain management courses, should be more about pain education. Teaching
Well,
you.
a lot of the NHS pain management courses do that, but the problem I've always had is obviously they don't explain it properly, or even if they do, they're really, really good at explaining it, but just explaining pain to somebody, and even look at the studies we got, just by itself isn't really enough.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, you can educate somebody, but all that's going to do...
Developing a
Yeah.
framework that
Yeah.
can truly.
You know what I mean? I mean, you've got like Peter Sullivan's CFT, stuff like that, and then if you have a look at the research, it didn't do fantastic, but you know what, it's pushing it
Yeah.
towards, you know what, and I love a lot of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think, or even just breaking down people's belief. I mean, look at the chicken crossing the road joke we always use.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
people come in, you're like, alright guys, listen at home, why did the chicken cross the road? And everybody's like, well, to get to the other side. And the thing is, people believe that, but it's wrong. And people think it's just a really shit joke about a chicken trying to get to the other side of the road, and it's just funny because it's so bad. But it's not. It's actually a really crude suicide joke about a chicken trying to get to the other side, as in the afterlife, not the other side of the road.
Yeah.
First publicised in what, the Knickerbocker, 1847. You know what I mean? But the thing is, we hear that when we're little, and what happens is that information comes into our brains assign meaning to it based on what we know at the time, which at 5 isn't a lot.
Yeah.
You know, especially not maybe a theory of a potential afterlife, so it just gets assigned, well, it must be funny because it's really bad. And then you tell it to your children, and you tell it to your friends, and you grow up, and then everybody just believes a chicken crosses the road just because he's bored.
Yeah.
When really it's
Yeah.
not, he's a suicidal chicken. You know what I mean? It's things like that. I think with the biology of pain and stuff, or the neurobiology of pain, it's trying to explain that to people, you know, in a way that's really kind of help them understand. That's why, I mean, even going through your training, guys, I mean, we use a lot of analogies because they work.
Yeah.
People like stories.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can take complicated things and make them quite easy.
I think the other thing that's a good advantage is having been there yourself, because it is really hard. It's like trying to describe water to someone if you've never had water.
Yeah, you think to do, you have to have, especially like a doctor, you know, somebody, well, I mean, some of my doctors I had, they've never had pain in their life, chronic pain especially, so for somebody to sit and tell me things that they don't really understand, which is kind of why when I expanded, I wanted you guys who are ex-clients who've recovered, who can walk the walk and you can, you know, talk the talk,
Yeah.
because you've been there and you've done that. I mean, you guys have been through it all. You know, when you did the program, you've gone from, you know, being in pain and fatigue and all the symptoms that come with it to fully recovering. And fully recovering so much that you literally come into a job where you're on your feet all day and constantly talking to people and need so much cognitive function. It's insane.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's crazy.
I still, one of the most frustrating things that I remember was kind of being told that the pain was all in my head. And I knew myself that, well, the pain, I am not making this pain up. I feel this hurts.
It's a really, really good point, Kyle. Because I think a lot of the time when people are explaining things, they don't explain it properly, like we've touched on before. But I think even just the word psychological has a really bad connotation, because people think, you know, psychology, oh, you know, kind of, it's not real.
Yeah.
But the thing is, psychology is just your brain's interpretation of your biology and the social factors that influence the two together. So I think a lot of the time that kind of impedes people from getting better. Especially, I don't know, maybe, you know, look at things like cognitive behavioural therapy. You know what I mean? A lot of people really, really, really find that helpful. A lot of people don't. I didn't, not a massive fan of it because I'm not that type of person. Same reason why I can't really meditate, things like that. But, you know what I mean? But if people kind of look at it, well, psychology, then, you know, that might be a catalyst that could actually help somebody get a lot better, if not fully recovered, which in some cases it can. But it just depends on the person, which I think is... But if people are so, you know, with bad connotations for psychology, people won't try it.
Yeah. And,
Sorry.
but yeah, no, it was certainly one of the most kind of frustrating aspects of dealing with doctors when I was in pain, and you know, nobody could kind of pinpoint what was going on. And,
Yeah.
I think the big problem is a lot of people, you end up blaming yourself. I mean, you can't find any scans or any physical evidence on why you're in pain, so why are you in pain? So you just start to blame yourself. Well, maybe I am making it up, maybe it is in my head.
Yeah,
And
that crossed my head. So, you know,
Yeah,
that
it's
crossed
it's
my
not until you realise that
We've
pain
all
is
been there.
actually something that you don't have control over.
It's a subconscious.
It's a subconscious function, just like your heart beating, or when you're not conscious, adrenaline, or even when you're not consciously blinking till you bring attention to it, kind of thing. It's
breathing.
Yeah.
Like fear. People have no kind of problem believing fear is real. Even though if you want to go real into it, fear is psychological. It's an experience. I mean, fear. What is fear? It's an automated response to perceived scary shit.
Yeah.
You have no control over whether you are frightened or not. Look, when we were messing about with virtual reality the other day, guys, and like I put the helmet on, and I'm like, oh, I'm okay with spiders. Evidently, I'm not okay with spiders because I ended up halfway across the room. You know what I mean? It's just crazy when you think about it. You know what I mean?
Or the jumping off the roof game. Where
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't matter if you know it's virtual reality. Right before you hit the ground, you're still jumping.
And I think people need to appreciate how deep kind of that subconscious automated stuff is. I mean, if you look at placebos even work when you know they are a placebo. That's how deep it goes.
What's the statistic? There's a statistic around paracetamols and their effectiveness. I think the more effective the you may know.
I can't remember it.
It's
the more attractive that the practitioner is,
it could be that.
more effect it can have. Like there's all these different factors on what can increase it.
Yeah, because what you find is generally if you inject somebody with saline, just salty water basically, it's more effective than a sugar pill.
Yeah.
I mean, what does your brain think when it sees an injection? It thinks, wow, it's a good shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the research shows as well that if the more attractive the doctor or the nurse giving the injection, the more pain relief people get. I mean, why do you think you guys got better? You know, got clearly over here. Yeah, but like, that's a really good point there, Jonny. People need to kind of understand that being in pain isn't their fault, and the thing is, it's so deep down in that subconscious as a protection response, because pain hasn't had to evolve because it does a good job the way it works. I mean, when's the last time you put your finger in a fire car?
That's been a long time.
Yeah, because it'll hurt. You know it's not going to hurt, so you don't do it.
Yeah.
Pain is not a situation report. It's not your body telling you this is what's going on at a tissue level. Pain is a conditioning tool. Oi, stop bending over like that. We've got bulging discs. Anybody who can't actually see me right now, I'm doing air quotation marks. You know what I mean? Because a lot of asymptomatic people who have no pain, do have bulging discs. Again, damage isn't mutually exclusive with pain. So, but the thing is, if you think that bulging discs do indeed cause pain at a mechanical level, then obviously if you bend over, your brain's going to freak the hell out about bending over because it doesn't want to damage you more. Yeah. I think people need to understand there's two people. There's them consciously and there's them subconsciously. And subconscious them really does not give a shit about kind of, you know what I mean, if they want to go sit in the cinema with their friend Susan. If that's deemed too much of a kind of, you know what I mean, threat, or we're going to sit there, we're going to hurt, you know what I mean, nah, just cut it off, what's the point in even doing it? And people are obviously going to end up with that reaction.
And then you've got the issue of pain is completely subjective.
Yeah.
You can literally, I could hit you both with the same force of a hammer in the toe, and you would both experience it completely differently.
Yeah.
We both get nociception, pretty sure if you smash me with something like metal. But then again, if you go to the social factors, you know what I mean, that nociception nerve, the nerve that tells my brain that, hey, look, noxious stimulus, something potentially did. Because guys, listening at home, there is no such thing as a pain receptor. There is no nerves in your body that send pain to your brain. Pain is a product 100% of your brain. There's not information coming in, it's just information. So the thing is, if like Jonny hits me in the shin with something hard, like a metal pole, then nociceptors, this is what René Descartes got really confused about and confused pain and nociception with and called them pain receptors, when actually they're not. Nociceptors are high threshold nerves that detect things that might be dangerous. So if Jonny hits me in the shin, then that nerve's going to run straight up, tell my brain, oh, just to let you know, something, you know, potentially dangerous is happening at the shin. You might want to check it out. My brain can ignore that. It can go, oh, you know what, actually, yeah, it will produce pain, pull your leg away. But the thing is, I've known Jonny for a while, been out for beers with him. I know he's not meaning to intend any harm. So more than likely my brain's going to go, not really that arsed about this. But if it was a stranger, you know what I mean, you're going to, and I mean, it gets complicated because you've got pain with, you know, nociception with pain, nociception without pain, and then Kyle's favourite story of all time, pain without nociception.
Yes, yeah.
Go on, you might as well tell everybody.
So there's a story about a builder. Now this builder had shot a nail through his foot. He'd went to the A&E. He was screaming in pain. Where they administered fentanyl and some kind of tramadol. It was tramadol, and the doctor cut off his boot just to find out that the nail had actually gone between his toes. There was absolutely no tissue damage, no nail there.
Between the gap in his toes.
Yeah, and it had literally gone through his foot. But he was screaming in agony, and that was.
So that's, I think all the rubber hand experiments, stuff like that, they're all really good examples of pain without nociception. I think chronic pain as well becomes a lot less about the tissue and a lot more context-based and contextual factors. You know what I mean? Where are we? Who are we with? What do we expect to happen? You know what I mean? What happened last time? Past experiences, beliefs. You know what I mean? And they all merge in together to create your kind of unified sense of how you feel at the time.
Obviously, phantom limb pain is fascinating as well, and that's why tissue damage equals pain. Is that you get people with no limbs that are still experiencing.
So I think we'll hold it there, guys, for kind of part one of this. I think we'll regroup. And I think, you know what I mean, we'll give people a chance to kind of figure out and ask what they want to hear. So, you know what I mean, I think part two we should maybe touch on kind of more what you need to do as a person at home listening. Because we've kind of covered a broad section of things. So yeah, okay guys, so thank you Jonny and Kyle for joining me in the Fibro Guys corner. Although technically it's not a corner, it's more an alcove, but I've made the gift now, so I'm not changing it. I'm going to cover forward for the podcast and stuff, so yeah. But you guys at home, like I say, adam.foster@thefibroguy.com, or you can catch me on Twitter, Facebook and all the usual platforms. Send me a message guys, let me know what you want. I mean, any questions for Jonny and Kyle. But thanks guys, and you guys at home, see you soon.